I recently received a question about how to draw trend lines and what I think of them, and rather than giving a long drawn out email response, I figured that maybe a video response would be more appropriate here. Now, first of all, let me just say that I've seen a lot of different ways people draw trend lines, so there's not necessarily one right way. So this video is basically my take on what I think a trend line should look like. So let's dive in. Okay, so for me, I want to use the highs and the lows. Some people use the close, and I know some also will use a line chart, for example, to draw trend lines. Again, is that wrong? Is that right? I don't know. I personally just like to use the highs and the lows, basically because they're easy to spot. So for instance, this ascending trend line here, I would say that this is a very obvious trend line. Each of these points on the trend line is very, very clear. So, you can only draw a line from each of these points, and there's no other way about it. It's really, really going to be obvious and very accurate trend line. Again, there's different degrees of accuracy. And if for instance, if you look at this upper trend line now, and what you're going to see is that people draw trend line using these points. Now again, is it right, wrong? I don't know. Would I consider this as a trend line? Yeah, I would. Now, would I trade off it? Probably no. Whereas, would I trade off at the lower trend line that we discussed about just now? Oh, definitely, because that's very obvious to me. See, that's the difference there. So if you notice on the upper trend line here, this one has a point that runs through the trend line, and it's not quite exact. Again, there's different degrees of this. Some don't care. For example, they might see a spike up here, and it's still okay with them. It depends on the trader. For me, I like it when it's very exact, like this one here. Okay, I'm going to move on and show a few others. Now, this would be a long-term trend line running from high to low. And if you look here, there are 3 points. 1, 2, and 3. Now, there is quite a distance between point 2 and 3. And because of this, I personally would not want to trade off it. Now, suppose if price from here came up and bounced here again, and then we had a 4th point within this huge area here. Now, that would make more sense to me. But again, this trend line, I might look at it, draw it, but I probably won't trade off it. Now, here's another example where you can clearly see price moving down, right? It's another trend line here. Again, this is, one of those times where, to me, it's not really exact. You have a point here, and you have some consolidation down there. And would I probably trade off it? No, I won't. And I'll tell you why. This trend line is actually a part of a bigger downtrend over here, because I'm a breakout trader. I don't trade off bounce of a trend line. I want to trade away from consolidation areas right over here. So if I see if I see that this is a part of a bigger move downtrend, then I won't trade it. Again, is this I'm going to trade off? No. Now, is it one where I'll use for information to show me that prices are respecting this downward trend line? Yes. Right? You can see that prices are consolidating. You can see that it is actually a trend line within a bigger downtrend line. So, I'll just use this as an information, nothing more than that. So, there are trend lines to me that are like this one that are not as respected, not as clear-cut, but I'll just sort of eyeball them, You can sort of just see that after a while. And then there are trend lines like the first one that we spoke about, and this is very clear, very exact, and to me, these are more important to me for trading itself. So again, it's really up to you to decide what's important, what's not. At the end of the day, it's just like everything else in life. If it's clear and obvious, then it's going to be something that I will use in my trades. And if it's not as clear or as obvious, and I'll probably just use it as information, to help me while I'm in a trade. Just maybe observe what I think might happen on a chart. Okay, the take-home message, I guess, for this video is that you want to look for clear and obvious ones. If you have to kind of think whether the trend line makes sense or not, then it's probably not as useful as you might think. The whole idea is that you want to spot trend lines that are obvious to you and to many others as well, because if it's obvious to a lot of people, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and more people will use that trend line to act on it. And that's basically what trend trading is all about. Well, that's it for this video. If you like what you see here, please click on the link below this video if you're on YouTube, or please go to letprofitsrun.com for even more good stuff. See you there.